Have you noticed how online outrage feels like a game? South Park just cranked that dial into a literal betting app run straight through elementary school. This is Season 27, Episode 5, Conflict of Interest, which finally aired after a one-week delay. The delay hit harder, because Comedy Central had already pulled an earlier episode that mocked a political figure from broadcast, so tension around the season was already high. That edge carries into this storyline. Kyle versus Cartman isn't just insults anymore. It's rage turned into currency. If a child's outrage can be cashed out, what do you think adults are doing with these markets? And that's where the schoolyard suddenly becomes the trading floor. Here's where the episode sharpens into its main idea. Betting on chaos becomes the game itself. What used to be whispers in the hall now flip into real-time odds on an app, like a trading floor for gossip. One kid throws out a rumor, another taps a phone, and within seconds numbers glow as if the school had its own Wall Street. The hook is that every scrap of drama can be wagered on. A dare, a fight, even who sneaks dessert at lunch gets priced and sold. The thrill isn't the act, but the anticipation of payout. The stock chart rush baked into childhood games. South Park plays it straight. Classmates shout lines like bookies while odds blink on screens, and suddenly the cafeteria feels like a Polymarket-style exchange. And of course, the show doesn't leave it on food fights. The Kyle-Cartman rivalry becomes the centerpiece of this economy. Their feud liquefied into shares everyone can buy or short. Cartman wastes no time learning the angles. He plants rumors, gooses sentiment, and bends the numbers so that Kyle is trapped to whatever he does. On the surface, it looks like schoolyard bullying. But the kick is that the bullying now has charts and liquidity. Then the escalation. Those little bets on pranks open the door to grimmer wagers. Suddenly, the app posts lines tied to Gaza and anti-Semitism, with Sheila, Kyle's mother, as the leverage point. Her Jewish identity turns her anger into a commodity. One line prices whether she'll explode in outrage, another whether she keeps quiet. That's how the satire makes its pivot. Her pain is stripped of meaning and turned into odds, the same way real-world markets boil headlines into yes or no contracts. The comparison isn't subtle. Polymarket and Kalshi already let you stake money on elections, lawsuits, or rainfall totals. Predicted trades outcomes of political races. The joke is that there's no ceiling. If gossip at recess can become shares, then why not wars, court cases, or someone's grief? South Park leans on the absurd, but you recognize the mechanics instantly. Cartman takes it further by gaming Sheila's role directly. If he hints she'll lash out, the odds shift. Classmates pile in, and suddenly Kyle's family identity is just more fuel for wagers. It's outrage turned into arbitrage, played for laughs but edged with something darker. The analogy would be simple. Imagine watching a cut bleed while your friends bet on whether it will scar. Every tick in suffering becomes someone else's gain. But that wasn't the whole story. The app isn't working in a vacuum. A shadow presence shapes the bets, tying recess numbers into national politics. In the episode, Donald Trump Jr. emerges as a so-called strategic advisor, telling Kyle to take his complaints to Brendan Carr at the FCC. And yes, Kyle actually ends up routed to Carr by name. A surreal detail that locks schoolyard beef into the orbit of federal regulators. Now prediction markets are no longer a parody about kids. They're tangled with power, regulation, and influence, where even a fight at lunch bleeds into corridors of government. That reveal sets up the next turn, when the cast of characters grows stranger and the satire doubles down on absurd alliances. What happens when Trump, Satan, and the FCC chair are thrown together? In South Park, it's not a joke. It's the core of an outrageous subplot. Instead of debating policy, you watch Trump fumble around kitchens and hallways, Satan waddling as a mock pregnant partner, and FCC chair Brendan Carr stumbling into disasters he never signed up for. It looks like slapstick, but it's satire aimed squarely at the machinery of power and spectacle. Trump's storyline shifts from podiums to petty sabotage. Each attempt to dodge fatherhood with Satan turns into a household stunt. 3 beats anchor the joke. First, he coats the stairs in grease, sending Carr tumbling. Then he stirs Plan B pills into a pot of soup, only for Carr to eat it instead. And finally, he dumps pounds of kitty litter that infect Carr with toxoplasmosis. What should be satanic melodrama becomes a running gag of Carr paying the price for Trump's mess. The punchline crystallizes at the doctor's office. After Carr's latest accident, the doctor warns with deadpan delivery that if the toxoplasmosis spreads to his brain, he may lose his freedom of speech. It's a line only South Park would dare write. And it twists censorship debates into literal physical comedy. The writers didn't drop Carr into this plot at random. In reality, he had stirred controversy by warning networks over comments on Jimmy Kimmel Live, a move that briefly knocked the show off air. The cartoon takes that real-life context and exaggerates it into bodily slapstick, his regulatory posture reduced to pratfalls and poisoned dinners. Meanwhile, the political menace grows sharper. Vice President J.D. Vance steps in with his warning. We can do this the easy way, or the hard way. In the episode, it's aimed squarely at Carr, but it also echoes the real-world climate around him. The satire works because Vance's words sound like rhetoric we've already heard in headlines. It's not parody that floats in space, but one with uncomfortable roots. To connect all these moving parts, the show even invents a single phone operator who fields every call, whether from the kids' betting app or the White House. He acts as a switchboard for the chaos, tying backyard hustles into the highest levels of government. It's a simple device, but it underscores the point that all these threads run through one system, and everyone ends up on the line. Then the story moves out of kitchens and boardrooms and straight into the international arena. Sheila, tired of being the focus of wagers, confronts Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Her speech doesn't just scold, it cuts to identity itself. She calls him out directly, saying he's wrapping yourself in Judaism like it's a shield from criticism. The moment is both angry and raw, turning her pain into a clash against global power. By this stage, the absurdity isn't safe humor anymore. It's political showdowns, cultural grievances, and demonic pregnancies, all tangled into one wager-driven system. You laugh because the visuals are ridiculous. Cat litter, greased stairs, poisoned soup, but the commentary lingers underneath. And that's the setup for the bigger question. If spectacle can turn even these extremes into trade, what happens to empathy once pain itself is framed as a betting slip? South Park closes the episode by pulling its satire into focus. The so-called prediction market isn't just a gag, it's a warning about how easily trauma and outrage can be packaged into entertainment. Whether it's a school fight, a family's grief, or global conflict. The episode shows how fast human stakes flatten into bets once money enters the frame. The solution the series offers isn't a fix in policy, it's its own chaos. By pushing the absurd to extremes, the show forces you to see the danger in treating suffering like a trade. So tell me where you land in the comments and tap subscribe if you want more breakdowns. Because when anger can be bought and sold, what does that say about us?